Hello students, once again welcome back to biology class. Myself Dr. Raghavendra here. So in the earlier class we have discussed about the axial skeleton as well as the appendicular skeleton. In the study of human skeleton, now the remaining concept is we need to understand about the joints. So let us study about the joints. So let me tell you what is the use of joints. Joints gives flexibility. They help in mainly locomotion or the movement. So joints, they are between the bones, they provide flexibility or mobility and helps in movement. Yes, they helps in movements as well in locomotion. Fine. So when I talk about the joints, yes, basically the joints are of three types. One is called as immovable joints. Other one is imperfectly movable joints. Movable joints. The third one is called as mainly perfectly movable joints. Yes. So here, these perfectly movable joints also called as synovial joints. To say mainly the immovable joints, they are also called as fibrocartilaginous joints. Yes, where we can find these kind of joints where they are not at all allowing any movement? Yes, we can find the fibrocartilaginous joint in cranial bony plates. Yes, we have studied that cranium, the skull is made up of frontal bone, two parietal bones, then one occipital bone, two temporal bones. So these bony plates are joined together, but that joint is also called as a suture, and these bony plates will never move throughout the life. So only it is called as a immovable joints. Other than this, we can find immovable joint in pubic symphysis, mainly in the pelvic girdle. Yes, it is movable only under special conditions such as parturition or delivery. During the childbirth, yes, there is the expansion of what we say mainly the pubic symphysis, that too in the female only. Then imperfectly movable joints. Yes, we can find imperfectly or their movement is limited. We can say that movement is limited or restricted. Okay, best example for this, we can say that mainly the cartilaginous joints of vertebrae. So joints of vertebral column. So our vertebral column is not like a spring to fold or to again rotate. So it has its limited movement. So that is called imperfectly movable or limited movement. Yes, we can find it. Now perfectly movable joints are synovial joints. Let me tell you what actually the synovial joint comprises. So the joints, yes, we find bone to bone. So here, yes, there is a bone to bone joint, but in between the cartilaginous tissue is present, cartilaginous cap is present. Okay, and then there is a fluid also accumulated. Yes, above that, mainly ligaments are there to join these bones. So what we find? The bone, we find cartilage, we find ligament, we find most importantly synovial fluid, synovial jelly-like fluid. So these substances gives better flexibility. So the movement will be good enough, we can say. So then perfectly movable joints are types of synovial joints. Let me tell you what are they. So here the types of synovial joints. So they are called as number 1 ball and socket joints, where we find, yes, example, between mainly pectoral girdle and humerus, as well as pelvic girdle and femur. Yes, this is ball and socket joint. Second kind of joint, we call it as a hinge joint. Yes, so it provides unidirectional movement is allowed. Limited movement. Hinge joint can be seen mainly the elbow joint and the knee joint. Okay. Then the third one is pivotal joint. Pivotal joint, where we find, let me tell you, yes, it is found between mainly atlas, the first vertebrae, and axis below the skull. Okay, our skull is dicondylic. So here this is the dicondyles of the skull, and now here the first, what we say here is the first vertebrae that has a cavity here. This is called as atlas, and in this cavity of atlas, the structure of axis projects. This is called as mainly the Dennis. So here lateral spines we find, then dorsal spine. This is axis. The second vertebrae, this is the Dennis. And then with this, our skull can rotate right and left, front and back. Okay, thus it allows only 180-degree movement of the head, 90 degree to the left, 90 degree to the right. Okay, so thus it provides only 180-degree movement, atlas and axis. Articulation, mainly the cavity of the axis holds very well the what you can say, elevated part of the axis, that is called the Dennis. So the head can be mainly movable 90 plus 90, 180 degree. So this kind of joint is called a pivotal joint. Number 4, gliding joint. Gliding joint. Yes, gliding joint can be seen in wrist and ankle. Okay, then number 5, it's called as the ellipsoidal joints. So we can fold our finger quite back also and front also. So yes, elliptical movement of the mainly what you can say the phalanges. So ellipsoidal joint mainly seen in the phalanges of four-limbed hind limb. Then the sixth one, that is called as saddle joint. Yes, it is found between mainly the metacarpal and carpal of thumb. So here when we say this is mainly the what we can say the here is the radius and there is the ulna, and then down we find yes there are around what we say mainly the 8 bones. Yes, these are metacarpals. These are the carpals. Then here comes mainly a joint of the thumb bone. Yes, here also we can find mainly these are the bones of the palm. Okay, but this the joint where the thumb is located, and then the thumb has again 2 bony structures. This joint help mainly it move like how the saddle on the horse back. So this is the horse, imagine the saddle is here. So the saddle, what it moves right and left also, it moves front and back also. Like that, our thumb is capable of moving front and back, right and left also. So this kind of joint that is found between metacarpal and carpal of the thumb is called as a saddle joint. Okay, here is that joint, saddle joint. So the movement is right and left, front and back. So these are well known 6 types of joints. As such, we call them as synovial joint. So in every phalange or finger, we have the tiny bones. In between the bones, we have the synovial fluid. These bone-to-bone structures joined by mainly the fibers called as ligaments, and in between these bony structures, we find the fluid called as synovial fluid. There is no friction between bone to bone. Why? Because there is a cartilage present. So thus they provide the protection, they avoid the friction, and then they provide the flexibility for movement. Thus the 6 well-known type of freely movable joints, ball and socket joint, which are 4 in number, 2 in the pectoral girdle, 2 in the pelvic girdle. So they are 4 in number. Let me mention that. So they are 4. And then hinge joint, they are also 4 in number. Okay? Yes. 2 in the elbow joint, 2 in the knee joint. And then pivotal joint is only 1. So the skull, which is dicondylic, articulates very well to fit with the atlas, then axis. Then the movement is front, back also, right, left also. Gliding joint, yes, the movement of the wrist, movement of the ankle, okay, that is bones are slightly gliding over one another, slipping over one another, again they come back to the normal position. That's why they are called gliding joints. Ellipsoidal joints, mainly the joints present, mainly here in the fingers. So we can fold our finger back, we can fold our finger front. This is ellipsoidal joint. And then saddle joint, mainly in the thumb. Okay, the thumb has mainly what we can say the bone in our palm called as mainly metacarpal, that fits very well with the wrist bone, that is called as a carpal. So movement of this thumb is right, left, front, back also. It is like a person sitting on the saddle of a horse who can move forward, backward, right and left also. That kind of movement, that's why the name given as a saddle joint. Okay, so these are different kinds of joints that gives flexibility, movement to the body. Well, so we need to know still about regarding some disorders as such related with the human skeletal system. So let us have a small, mainly the discussion about regarding the skeletal mainly disorders. So let me mention those also, the disorders of the human skeleton. So there are only few as such. Namely, number one, we call it as gout. Then number two, osteoporosis. Number three, osteoarthritis. Okay. Number four, rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. Then mainly what we call it as mainly the hyperparathyroidism. Okay. Yes. Then that leading to the mainly the spongy bones. So gout is what? Gout is actually, we can say that excess accumulation of uric acid crystals between the joints or the bones. So skeletal disorders, let me mention the title, skeletal disorders. So the gout, yes, when kidney is malfunctioning and then uric acids are formed and that is not eliminated properly and excretion is not happening, uric acid forming the crystals that accumulate between the joints, the person will have the swelling of the joints. Then there is what we can say the no proper mobility or movement of the joints that leads to a disorder called gout. Osteoporosis mainly observed in females, okay, after menopause. Okay, so this leads to the deficiency of estrogen hormones. That also affects their body metabolism. Bones become weak, bone density decreases, and they are highly sensitive to any kind of bone fracture. So that is called as osteoporosis. Then osteoarthritis, abnormal growth of the bone. Okay, yes, between the joints. This is a kind of osteoarthritis. It is a kind of what we can say autoimmune disorder, rheumatoid arthritis. Mainly autoantibodies causing what we can say autoantibodies causing fluid accumulation between the joints, swelling of the joints ultimately causes swelling of joints. This is what we say mainly about rheumatoid arthritis. Now when we talk about regarding, yes, it is due to a kind of autoimmune disorder. Means antibodies are formed against our own body cells. So we call it as autoimmune disorder. Okay. The next one is hyperparathyroidism. So we call it as mainly it produces excess PTH. Okay. So what actually this parathormone? PTH means parathyroid hormone or parathormone. Yes, it is also called as hypercalcemic hormone. Why? Because yes, from the bone excess, what we can say that calcium is mobilized. Okay, calcium mainly now going to the what we can say the blood. Excess calcium is now going to the blood. So this is mainly done by mobilization of excess calcium from the bone to the blood. Yes, hypercalcemic condition is caused by presence of excess PTH that causes spongy bone or mainly cavities of mainly forming in the bones. Okay, so these are few important disorders related with the skeletal system. Yes, so that's all about today's class. Thank you very much. See you again.